Sony Betamax, Systems Thinking Video by Cadet Giglio. Sony Betamax was a video cassette magnetic tape recording device developed by Sony in Japan in 1975. It was used to record home videos, TV shows, movies, and much more. Although thought to be long dead, Sony finally declared it would stop producing Betamax tapes in March of 2016. Sony Betamax a failure. So why did the Sony Betamax fail? The purpose of the video cassette tape was to store information packedly on a tape. It failed due to its weight. The VHS was cheaper than the Betamax. The time allotted to record Betamax tapes compared to VHS tapes was 1 hour to 2 hours, and Sony's market approach versus VHS's market approach. First, the weight of the Sony Betamax tape affected the mass manufacturing of the object. The Sony Betamax weighed 36 pounds compared to the 29.5 pounds of the VHS. This affected all material costs to produce Betamax, assembly line time, and the shipping costs. Another reason the Betamax failed was due to it being more expensive than the VHS. The consumer leaned toward the cheaper alternative, which was as suspected. Another key reason the Betamax failed was due to its shorter footage time than VHS. A VHS could hold an entire movie's worth of content, while Betamax couldn't. Thus, the consumer wanted to watch a movie in its entirety and bought the VHS. Lastly, the reason the Betamax failed was because VHS got most of the video rental market. Betamax took a more time-shifting advertising approach to the consumer, while VHS focused on creating relationships with the video rental industry like Blockbuster and Hollywood Tapes. Betamax was known for its better picture quality than VHS, but since VHS was the first to the market and fulfilled all technical matters, it showed that VHS was just good enough and better than Betamax. System thinking concepts. We can classify the Sony Betamax as a physical system because we are able to touch and observe it. From there, it can be broken down into a man-made and non-living object based off its origin and physicality. The Sony Betamax visibility, as observed through its failure, can be classified as a gray box, and its interaction with the environment is a closed system due to its constant need for human input to keep adding cassette tapes every time the human wants to use the system. Systems boundary diagram. The system's boundary diagram shows the flow of inputs to outputs, as well as the subsystem, the internal feedback, and the external feedback. We can see that the inputs video, sound, tracking information, and tape, which goes into the subsystem of the TV, which is connected to the sound, sending data, and locate data, which can then be broken down into the user interface and the operating system of the TV, as well as the sound's audio system, that copies the tracking information, and then puts all the data onto the magnetic tape. Thus, the output is a copied video, a copied sound, and an identical tape. So the internal feedback is the operating system tasks, the video and sound information, the internal processes maintenance, as well as test trial surveys for external feedback, customer feedback, and employee feedback. Our systemogram. The systemogram shows how a consumer is going to buy or not buy tapes based on their interaction with the Sony Betamax tape. We can see that the Sony Betamax tape allows recording at home, which can be either successful or unsuccessful. If it's successful, it'll lead to extra time for the consumer, which will lead extra time to watch shows, to do other tasks, or to sleep. All three of these things creates a happy consumer who will then buy more tapes. If the Sony Betamax fails and the tape lengths are an hour long, which can be considered unsuccessful, this will lead to missing the recording, which will mean an unsatisfied customer and an angry customer, which creates an unhappy customer who will then not buy more tapes. Our structure/visibility chart shows how the inputs from the environment lead to the outputs in the environment as evaluated through its failure of the Sony Betamax. The input of the weight, the price, the length of the recording, the rental market approach, and the competition with VHS all led to more people using the VHS. This then turned into less money for Sony, less support for the product, and ultimately the failure of Betamax as through a gray box. The spatial arrangement. So at the meta system, we have the film industry. From there, it can be broken down into both movies and TV shows as systems. A subsystem of the system is both the VHS tape and the Betamax tape. Both of these are platforms where a number of various movies can be watched. Then lastly, an element of these tapes would be the specific movies themselves, because these tapes have the capability and potential to sort or play any type of movie or TV show. Evolution. We start with the film reel. As times progressed, we moved to the VHS and the Betamax tapes, into home DVD movies, and then eventually to streaming online like Netflix. So our system's life cycle. So we must identify our system needs. So the basic needs to store video information onto a tape. There we can go to our system concept or our system boundary diagram, determine what inputs will give us that desired output, go to design and develop the system, create a design for the Betamax tape, using tracking information to copy the video information onto the tape. From there, we will produce the system, create the Betamax tape where it records video from TV, deploy the system by introducing it to the market for people to purchase, operate the system, we'll conduct surveys on the Betamax tape, see what needs to be enhanced and what doesn't, and then we will retire the system. We'll stop producing tapes when they're no longer profitable. So some risk in the life cycle. So we have a couple internal risks, such as the cost risk, where the tape is too expensive to produce within our system's need. Then our system concept, another internal risk is the technical risk. The tape quality will be poor. Design and develop the system. Possible cost risk, another internal risk, is that raw materials are too expensive to create. Produce the system, schedule risk, tapes take too long to produce. Deploy the system. An external risk, a pragmatic risk. People purchase other tape recordings, such as the VHS. When we look at risks in the operating system, operational risks, surveys are inaccurate and don't help to improve the system. Then a risk in retiring the system would be our retirement plan is ignored within the corporation itself. So some ethical considerations. One ethical consideration while taping over your favorite TV show or movie was the fact of whether you were producing copyright infringement or not. This consideration went all the way to the Supreme Court in 1984 as Sony Corp of America versus Universal City Studios Incorporated, where it was determined by a 5-4 vote that it was not copyright infringement because the intent was not to copy the work, but to save the work to watch for another time. Some of our system stakeholders in our life cycle, at the system's need, we have the board of directors, which then goes to system concept, which is also the board of directors. Then we design and develop the system, which is the responsibility of the project manager, who will then produce the system, and the people responsible for that are the workers themselves that design and produce the tape. And we deploy the system as part of the CEO and the subordinates to put it out in the market, operate the system. Investors and project managers have a stake in that. And then when we retire the system, that'll ultimately be the decision of the CEO and the board of directors. So innovations of the tape throughout the time is the film wheel. The idea to get to the video cassette tape was to have a more compact video holder as the film was too large. Once the VHS and Betamax tape happened, some innovations they wanted was more compact video recorder again, as well as more memory. So they created the disc. And from the disc, they didn't want no cassette at all and stream unlimited data into Netflix.
You feel me?
That concludes my systems thinking video. Thank you very much.